Hey, welcome, Mark. Are we live?
We are.
Okay. So we are live, Mark, in about a minute or two until we get going. So if you are listening into the future, you can skip ahead about a minute, and that's when we'll be kicking off the national is it the
National
national anthem now?
anthem.
Yeah, why not?
No, because if we actually played the national anthem, YouTube would hit us with copyright infringement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you already. Yeah,
We'd have to play
they
some sort
charged
of
you
an
some money.
off-brand national anthem that kind of sounded like our national anthem, but wasn't really it that YouTube approved of.
All right. Oh, got a funny national anthem story, but there's no time to tell us now because we've got movie sign. We got
Oh, we
movie
do.
sign.
It is that time. All right, here we go.
Bants and Bants.
Wait a minute.
Bants and Bants.
All systems go.
Bants and Bants.
Defiance.
Bants and Bants.
Here,
This rebel.
let's try that again, shall we?
Bants and Bants.
Okay.
Bants and Bants.
All systems go.
Bants and Bants.
Defiance.
Bants and Bants.
This rebel has a cause.
Bombs and dance.
We begin as wanderers, and we are wanderers still.
Welcome everyone to the 82nd live edition of Bombs, Bants, and Wednesday Rants. As always, I'm your dedicated and humble host, John Wilder, coming to you from an undisclosed location, hidden deep beneath the surface of the earth. And with me, as always, is Mark.
Hey there, I'm more humble.
And the missus.
Hang on, I was sitting on my headphones. I tried to
Sitting
move
on-
my head and discovered that.
Sitting on the dock
Yeah.
of the headphones. All right. And Tim Turner is with us as usual. Hey, Tim.
Hello.
All right, so-
Helps if my mic's not muted.
How was your week there, Mark?
Oh, fine. Just wondering when spring's gonna come.
It's supposed to be 30 here on Saturday, so we're all looking
Yeah.
forward to
Yeah, but it's already hot and
Yeah,
humid
yeah.
here. It's gonna rain all next week, which means thunderstorms.
We've had snow. We had frost this morning. Makes it hard to garden.
Yes.
No, yeah, but no, it gives you a reason not to garden. Gives you
Oh,
a
that's
reason.
true.
And if you drank, the price of Bud Light's probably so cheap that you could probably water your plants with it. So,
Not even plants like that.
and Jim Wetzel has joined us.
Hello, Jim.
All
Okay,
right.
why did our HVAC system just kick on? Did you hear that? Because I can hear it, and it shouldn't be
I bet-
on, because that means
I
the
bet-
heater's on.
I bet it's our son, so you might want to.
What do you want me to do
I-
about it?
I don't know.
You didn't ask me how my week was.
I know how your week was. It was great. The best week ever.
Budweiser, the queen of beers. That's funny, Tadano.
Jim, of course. Listen, she spoke to me. Tadano, hito. If you would text the person who can go and shut off the HVAC, that will solve some of our problems. Because I know who Tadano is. All right, shall we?
Well, you
shall we-
didn't ask me how my week went. What is wrong with you?
Do you think our listeners can? Okay. How was your week?
No, see, here's just the sound I have always for that.
Why you bullying me?
Now, I stayed up very late every night over the weekend, and since it is marginally springtime, the local fauna has been out and eating the cat food on our front steps. And because it's warm, the front windows were open, and our well, he's not a very forceful dog. In fact, we call him, I'll switch to a different language here, the Ussy dog. Because he really is. He's afraid to bark at things because they might know he's there. So he was on the couch with me and noticed that the local fauna was on our front step. And so I snapped a picture of the two of them. Here they are. dog, and Doug. Doug is the raccoon.
Yes. Indeed. The pusillanimous.
And there's a better picture of Doug. And I think
All right.
I think there are two Dougs too. There were two of them last night. So
Okay. All right.
that was
All
my
right.
weekend.
All right. Enough of that. Again, audience, what they want to hear is they want to hear how you conquered Mount Everest or something.
Is that true?
So, well, the true doesn't matter. All right.
The dog, by the way, just weaseled his way under my desk and is now sitting on my feet.
Yeah, and Tim, yes, it's Doug, D-O-U-G, not Doug.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move into the audio tape. Last week, the FBI arrested 21-year-old Jack. Say the word.
Teixeira.
Yeah.
What was that?
That wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Mark, are you okay?
I was just zipping up my jacket.
Jacket. Okay.
Well, I'm sitting outside this week,
Oh, okay.
and it was getting chilly. So I turned up my collar and zipped up my jacket. Sorry.
All right. Last week, the FBI arrested 21-year-old Jack Teixeira of the Massachusetts Air National Guard in connection with the intelligence leak of classified documents on a Discord server. If you're not familiar with Discord server, it's where kids get together online and share secret documents.
Apparently, that's what it is.
Has been charged with one count of violating the Espionage Act related to the unlawful copying and transmitting of sensitive defense material, and a second charge related to the unlawful removal of defense material to an unauthorized location. A conviction on the espionage charge carries up to 10 years in prison. This was the end of the show discussion on Sunday's Meet the Press, and host Chuck Todd, who has two first names, so we can't ever trust that.
And a beard.
Yes, wonders what's the big deal.
Nothing that was leaked was stuff that we didn't largely know. You know, meaning like, oh, we knew Egypt had a history with Russia. We knew, look, there were some specifics that were embarrassing to these other countries. So in some ways, there's part of me like going, oh, it's nice to know that the intelligence, that this is what it is. It's what it looks like, and apparently this is what it is.
Yeah, so he doesn't seem very upset about it. I don't know that our government's very upset about it. I think John Kirby in a press conference this week, when someone asked him, is this the end of it, or is it all out there, said, we don't really know. It seems like they don't care much.
Well, and looking at these documents that he's released, again, no surprise to anyone. I've seen pictures that would indicate that, the information is largely correct. The thing I would note is, where are we when Alexander Vindman was leaking classified information to the press? Why is that not an issue? Why is he not being
I think
arrested?
you know why, and we have another story coming up after our first bit here about that. But don't forget, I do have the other side of this issue, who says, yes, this is a terrible thing that's happened, and who knows what else is out there. And this is from Kash Patel, who was, he's been involved with the DOJ, he's been in, I think maybe the State Department, I want to say. And if Trump had gotten elected in 2020, he probably would have ended up being director of the CIA. So he's not, he certainly has his chops when it comes to national security stuff. Well, here's what he had to say about this.
The money, the armaments, the weaponry, the training that the United States government has provided the Ukrainian government has been succeeding to defeat Vladimir Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. Not according to these documents. These are U.S. intelligence documents that say the strategic policy in the Ukraine is essentially failing. When you juxtaposition that hard intelligence versus what the White House has been telling us, somebody's lying.
Well, I think it's pretty clear who's lying. It's clearly the Biden administration who've been cheerleading this the whole time. I mean, I guess that maybe the media got conditioned to just automatically believing whatever the administration said from the whole COVID thing, but they haven't seemed very curious as to what is actually going on in Ukraine, and they don't seem to accept that maybe things aren't going all as planned.
So, and Jim Wessel notes he's one of our South Asian overlords, and there's lots of them. Mark, do you have a take on any of this?
You know, the reality is this kid's in trouble because he leaked things that are embarrassing a Democrat in the Oval Office. Whereas if he'd been embarrassing a Republican president, then, you know, everything would have been fine.
So here's my thoughts on the end state of this entire thing. You know, all those conservatives will look out and say, huh, they've got us on the wall executing us. What if we were executing them? Oh my, double standards.
Well, you know, but what are you going to do when, as a conservative, you try to protest, you know, in a way to uphold democracy, as Democrats would say if they were doing it, and suddenly you're in federal prison for 10 years?
Our democracy.
Well, their democracy.
Yes. That's a
We
very
aren't
good
included
point.
in that personal pronoun, those of us on the right.
No, we are not. But you know who is?
Hey, you need to understand. I mean, what's the root word for democracy? Democrat.
Right.
So that's the only one that's allowed.
That's right. Because they are the real them of genius.
Kumpelheiser Beer presents Real Them of Genius. The real them of genius. Here's to you, mix I choose not to choose. No, I don't want that one, or that one either. If it's left or right, you burrow underneath through a tunnel. But I don't like digging either. If it's bar soap or body wash, you make your own out of chips of granite and diamond. Ow! That kinda hurts. If it's texting or calling, you burn down your neighbor's them shed and send smoke signals. Hey, that's cultural appropriation! Because you are a them, and they don't care what they think. Or them don't care what, is it, what, carry the one at, I think I need a chart or diagram or something. Anyway, here's to you for being a real them of genius. Real them of genius. From Kumpelheiser Beer.
Brought to you by Chud Light. It's all the misses, Jim. It's all the misses. Yes, for the local credits. All right, that was real them of genius.
I really did enjoy singing that one. That one was fun.
Oh my. Both Tennessee lawmakers who were expelled from the state legislature are back in the legislative body this week. That sounds vaguely dirty. After being booted.
Lucky legislative body.
Using bullhorns to stage a protest on the floor of the Tennessee State House. One might be inclined to compare it to January 6th, as Piers Morgan did last night on Overtime with Bill Maher. So now we have talk show hosts interviewing talk show hosts. Okay. All right. California Democrat.
Well, they got to talk about something.
Katie Porter immediately jumped in to say the two things were completely different.
Now, they were protesting because there was a shooting there. They wanted, I think I agree with what they were saying, is we need better gun control laws. But these are legislators, and they used a bullhorn inside the well of the Senate of Tennessee, was it? This is state legislature.
Yeah. And interrupted the proceedings, which, of course, when that happened on January the 6th, in a much larger and more violent way, all the people currently cheering on the two Tennessee legislators were the ones who would have been condemning and castigating what happened on January the 6th.
Well, you're not actually comparing.
No,
yeah, that's
I'm not,
crazy.
that's why I
You actually did just compare.
No, here's what I'm comparing. When you have a mob of protesters and they're going into a legislative chamber, whether it's at the Capitol or whether it's in Tennessee, the principle's the same. And if you don't have the same principle response to both of those things, regardless of scale, then you're not principled.
No, listen, the principle is different. They were Tennessee legislators who went into the chamber and admittedly broke the rules of decorum, partly because they were being silenced when they wanted to talk following the rules of decorum about gun violence prevention. What happened on January 6th was a bunch of batshit crazy f***ers with guns who killed police people.
Woo! 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 Yeah! You go, girl. So the Wall Street Journal has an op-ed about that will be in tomorrow's journal. It's online now. And the name of this is, where's it at? The Tennessee Bullhorn Isn't Democracy. Biden and Schumer now say it's heroic to disrupt a legislative body. And part of this says, think about it. The majority leader of the U.S. Senate is publicly arguing that if partisans feel passionately enough about a policy issue, they are justified in disrupting legislative proceedings by force. Wait until GOP Senator Josh Hawley hears this news. Would Mr. Schumer be so blasé if a trio of Republican senators with a bullhorn hijacked his daily agenda to protest abortion or another policy they consider immoral? No, they'd be in jail too.
I was just looking at the picture of Katie Porter that you had up there, and her transition is going really well.
I know.
Like I think a few more years on estrogen, she might pass.
I've kind of started doing that too, to go in and comment on any story that has a leftist female talking about something and they're pictured, to just go in and comment, "Wow, your transition is going great. You look pretty feminine." No, but her argument is that these were state legislators, and that makes it okay. In my book, that makes it worse.
Mark, do you have a book? And if so, what is it?
Mark's eyeballs are frozen. He can't answer right now.
I don't. Yeah, no. A book. I've got several reloading manuals here.
Excellent. How much powder do you think it would take to fill Katie Porter? Sorry, I should stop.
What type of powder? I mean, normally Democrats use cocaine, but
well, that is Zelensky. That is okay. He's all right. It keeps him up at night so he can fight longer and harder for Ukrainian people. All right. Making the rounds this week was a clip of Elon Musk, of course, having a sit-down with BBC reporter James Clayton. And he did ask James Clayton if he liked BBC. In the clip, Musk asked Clayton for an example of increased hate speech on Twitter since the billionaire took over the company last fall.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you said
a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen your hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
then I say so that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I
you just lied.
Oh, Elon, giving it to him with both barrels. Good job, Elon. Mark, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I watched the entire video. Well, a longer clip anyway, I should say. I didn't watch the entire interview.
Does it look like James?
It's wonderful, and it's a good example why an idiot shouldn't argue with a genius. But
does it look like a BBC reporter?
Don't you know that James Clayton guy? He thinks he's so much smarter than Elon, right? Because the leftists have now decided that Elon's just an idiot. He's so stupid. Sorry, please continue with what you said. I'm sorry, do I keep talking over you?
I guess we can call this kerfuffle Elon Gates. All right. Have you ever wanted to take up a sport that might take years of training before you can even be considered a noob? If you said yes, then combat juggling might be for you. Yes, combat juggling. It's a team sport with 10 members on each team, and they're all juggling. Here's a clip.
This is the sport of combat juggling, an aggressive form of object manipulation combined with debilitating attacks. Each player must maintain control over 3 clubs at all times. In sumo combat, the objective is to destroy your opponent by slashing their clubs to the ground or shoving them out of the sumo circle. In Breach, 30 clubs are in motion at the start of each round, but only one player needs to maintain control until they reach the breach zone.
Does it make me a really awful for a person to think, that would be a lot of fun to watch if I had a big bag of marbles sitting on the sideline there?
Did you see that?
I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's got to be boring just throwing the same 3 objects out, back and up and down in the air.
Not if they're chainsaws.
That's true.
Tadano Hito notes. Clearly a German invented this. But the first records of the beginning of combat juggling indicate that it began as Los Angeles in the United States in the late 1970s. And its creator was possibly the technical and comedy juggler Edward Jackman, no related to Hugh. He, along with his friend Daniel Rosen, attended the IJA convention in Los Angeles.
International Jugglers Association, give them credit.
Jackman was empirically experienced in juggling, while Rosen, 11 years old at the time.
Yeah, did you catch that too?
This story just got creepy. Okay, Wood started his career at the event. They later talked about creating the game, and boom, no sport was born.
I know. I was a little disturbed by that too. I was a little disturbed by that.
Brain bleach. Let's.
Well, I know, okay, but it's nice to know that there are rules to it, and because you go, what is it like horse?
No, it's not like horse.
and Jim Wetzel notes, let's have combat juggalos. But Jim, we have a better sport than that.
See, Jim and I were actually also thinking along the same lines because I was going to do that. Yeah, I know it was my cue. Would you shut up? I can talk. I mean, seriously.
Why you bully me?
For love of... All right, yes. Big event coming to the Metropolitan Civic Center Pavilion. Whatever it is, here it is.
In the Quad States.
This Sunday only. Slapcop Productions teams up with Unpainted Ukraine and John's Hammer Emporium to bring you a night of entertainment so big.
How big is it?
It's so big that the Metro Civic Center Pavilion Arena can hardly hold it.
Oh my.
That's right. It's midget hammer fighting. Come watch your favorite little person get after it with his big stick.
On the undercard.
Rowdy Runty Piper, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Tom Thumb in Your Eye, Dinky Dangerous Dan, and many more.
Plus, to finish off the evening, 2 hammers go in, 1 midget comes out. It's the edge-of-your-seat action of the Steel Pin Death Match, featuring Paul, the half-pint pugilist Bavario, and Doug.
Yep, just plain old Doug.
Yep, just plain old Doug. Get your tickets now for the tiny terror of midget hammer fighting. You'll buy the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
A Slapcop Entertainment production.
Make sure you get your tickets.
so here's, let me tell you the genesis of midget hammer fighting. So we were listening to news back 97, 98, and New York, they had it was dwarf tossing. And the idea was, that, they'd rent a dwarf for the evening, and they would throw them as far as they could at bars, and they were.
No, they weren't throwing the dwarves at bars. They were in a bar and tossing the dwarf.
Yes.
They were tossing the dwarf onto a soft padded area.
And the dwarf would make like $300 to $500 for the evening, and it was again soft padded.
It was not compelled in any way.
And not compelled anyway. It's not like they purchased a dwarf off the dwarf slave ship, and you put him in irons, and then made him pick Q-tips, I guess, because they're small. But anyway, the dwarves were making tons of money, but they wanted to make it illegal. And I said, let's replace it with something that's much more fair to the dwarves. midget hammer fighting. Thus the birth of midget hammer fighting. And that's probably
It's been a
some sort
thing
of-
ever since. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably another sign that we're terrible people.
Oh, Mark, are the missus and I horrible people?
Let me think.
The pause means yes.
I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on that. We can circle around to it next week.
Well, again, I was talking to several people and at a funeral and a large number of people at the funeral, and I said to one, I said, you know, there's only going to be 4 people at my funeral, and 2 will be there just to make sure I'm dead. So he's really gone. Yay! All right, well, let's see what Neil has to say.
This is Neil Young,
Hey, get that jackass out of here!
and I'm proud to present my Braying Jackass of the Week.
In number 1, our candidate, the New York Times. The Times ran a lengthy piece on Monday called "How."
I vote for number 1.
Just wait. It's going up against the United Nations, buddy. So you better hold on.
Okay, I vote for number 2.
Okay, so it's Jim already. The Times has run a lengthy piece on Monday
Fecal
called
matter.
No, not called that. Called "How a Campaign Against Transgender Rights Mobilized Conservatives." In what might be called an epic piece of gaslighting, the writers Adam Nagurney Weaver and Jeremy W. Peters.
Also 2 first names.
I actually think Jeremy's middle name might be S. Jeremy S. Peters claims that the whole transgender issue was drummed up by conservatives to raise campaign money. Here's a sample.
What has stuck, somewhat unexpectedly, is the issue of transgender identity, particularly among young people. Today, the effort to restrict transgender rights has supplanted same-sex marriage as an animating issue for social conservatives at a pace that has stunned political leaders across the spectrum. It has reinvigorated a network of conservative groups, increased fundraising, and set the agenda in school boards and state legislatures. The campaign has been both organic and deliberate, and has even gained speed since Donald J. Trump, an ideological ally, left the White House. Since then, at least 20 states, all controlled by Republicans, have enacted laws that reach well beyond the initial debates over access to bathrooms and into medical treatments, participation in sports, and policies on discussing gender in schools.
Well, it's pretty rough. Oh, and yes, Jim, that was Newsbot.
Yes, that
so
was
anyway. So that was number 1. Everybody talks about when the Germans burned the books, but nobody ever talks about what books they burned. But let's move to number 2, the United Nations. What is that sound?
Mark, are you listening to something else while we're doing the podcast?
Oh my God, John is so boring.
I have no idea what you're even talking about because I didn't hear a sound.
Okay, Mark, wink, wink.
It's not on my end.
Number 2 is the United Nations. That's our second candidate. That's a group that really has their thumb on the pulse of the world. The UN recently released the 8 March Principles for a Human Rights-Based Approach to Criminal Law, prescribing conduct associated with sex, reproduction, drug use, HIV, homelessness, and poverty.
They get paid by the word in their titles.
Yeah, well, of course they do. We are here to talk about these. Sounds like very human rightsy, yet buried in this lengthy tome of international legalese is this section on the age of consent.
With respect to the enforcement of criminal law, any prescribed minimum age of consent to sex must be applied in a non-discriminatory manner. Enforcement may not be linked to the sex, gender of participants or age of consent to marriage. Moreover, sexual conduct involving persons below the domestically prescribed minimum age of consent to sex may be consensual in fact, if not in law. In this context, the enforcement of criminal law should reflect the rights and capacity of persons under 18 years of age to make decisions about engaging in consensual sexual conduct and their right to be heard in matters concerning them. Pursuant to their evolving capacities and progressive autonomy, persons under 18 years of age should participate in decisions affecting them, with due regard to their age, maturity and best interests, and with specific attention to non-discrimination guarantees.
So 12-year-old can't buy beer, but can legally have sex with George Soros.
You know, there's a lot of twisted thinking here. I mean, they can consent, I guess, willingly. I mean, just like a 3-year-old can, choose to stick his hand on the stovetop. But, the reason for these laws is because we all know that people below a certain age, for the most part, are going to do stupid stuff. That's why they legally can't consent, even if they factually can consent. And they're trying to mix the two. Just the most disgusting stupidity that, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and what bothers me about this too is that this is the same side of the political aisle that says children should be able to consent to sex, but they also say a fully grown adult female who has a beer is unable to consent to sex.
Ta-da.
Or a 40-year-old woman who wants to date her boss is unable to consent to that.
So
are we fully with agency from age 0 to whenever, or do women never have agency? It's both.
Well, we keep letting them vote. That's
it's real them of genius. I don't choose either. I choose both.
Yes. All right. So I'm sensing a consensus online for number 2. Mark?
Fecal matter.
All right. Let's hear it for the blue helmets.
Yay! Way to go.
Yep. So
where's the clap at? There it is. Where's the clap at? I think the UN probably knows about that too, don't they?
Yeah. It's okay to give it to kids, apparently.
Well, that seems to be the favorite activity of their UN peace forces is to rape local women and children.
Well, it's just how you define peace. Some people define peace as an absence of hostilities. Others define peace as the UN peacekeepers getting to do whatever they want to. Getting a peace, as it were.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take us out of here, Mrs.
And this has been Neil Young's Braying Jackass of the Week.
And before this started, Tim noted in San Francisco, we have Fisherman's Dwarf. There is your palate cleanser.
Very nice.
And more of the clap. All right. You know what that means.
Think real fast.
Robert F. Kennedy running for president, already backed by 14% of Biden voters and a single vote from Jeb Bush. Mark, what do you think Jeb Bush and his little goblin wife do on weekdays?
Probably dwarf or midget hammer fighting.
She'd qualify. I mean, she's like 3'1", I think.
Yeah, no, but they get really big hammers and they get to chase dwarves.
Okay.
But only if they're conservative dwarves, because that makes it right and moral.
The missus, do you think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. might be a better driver than Teddy?
I don't know. Does he throw better parties than his cousin, William Kennedy Smith?
He is certainly not difficult at throwing out bombs.
Or what about Michael? Isn't that guy's name?
Yep. But tonight, Facebook censored his presidential announcement 30 minutes into the live feed being streamed. So they are afraid of a Kennedy.
Well, that's because he really, really, really hates the CIA and thinks the CIA killed his uncle John. And so, yeah.
And also, isn't he a big anti-vaxxer too?
We can't say those.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can't talk about that.
No, I was just asking if he was. I'm not. It's safe and effective.
And there are no refunds.
That's right.
All right, switching to Donna Hito. Hito does note that Jeb gives his spouse Gabelina
Gabelina.
rides at the park every weekend. All right. Cleopatra was a red-haired Greek, but Netflix does reek because they made a depiction of her as black. Now the Egyptians are mounting a legal attack. An Egyptian lawyer is suing Netflix over the depiction. The documentary is done by Jada Pinkett Smith, Will's wife, showing a black woman playing Cleopatra. Mark, why do Egyptians hate black people?
Oh, they just hate Netflix.
The missus?
Yes.
Do you think Will Smith will try to hit me since I made fun of his unattractive wife?
Oh, is she involved in this?
She's the one who is the producer or director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some lead capacity in making,
I guess I did see that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well,
No, only if you make fun of the fact that she's bald.
I guess we should be glad then that the Cleopatra actress has hair.
Well, I was going to make a joke about pulling her hair out, but you beat me to it. So let's move on.
But didn't they all shave their heads so they wouldn't get lice and mites and stuff?
No, but that was the Egyptian rulers, not. I don't know if the Greek.
Okay.
Would have done that.
Okay.
Reparations to the nations. A Duke professor named Darity said that payments to blacks should not be a rarity. As he suggests, each black person who was descended from slaves should be given $350,000 each, costing only a bargain $14 trillion. Mark, do you think Professor Darity should apply to a higher royal rank university, and not be at a duke, but maybe as a king?
Maybe you'd be better serving as a queen.
The missus?
Yes.
Who is really at fault here, and why shouldn't we wreck the entire economy?
It's white people.
And a question for both. Should we pay the reparations in Zimbabwean dollars? Then maybe that's a way to solve every problem.
I think that would be totally appropriate.
How about Liberian coinage made by the Denver Mint?
Okay.
Decorative plates. That's what we should do it.
Give them a decorative plates.
Yes.
From the Franklin Mint.
Yes, that's what I meant, Franklin Mint.
In 13 hours, Elon Musk's starship will reach for the heavens. Blow up or just sit there. Mark, why doesn't he just use a Chinese spy balloon?
Oh, well, that's a good question because I every time he launches a rocket, I'm afraid that Biden might try to shoot it down, and if it was a Chinese spy balloon, it'd be perfectly safe.
The missus?
Yes.
Is sometimes a spaceship just a spaceship?
Well, only when you're not sticking it in your mouth.
Okay. Biden rule will. There's a new Biden rule that will redistribute high-rise loan costs to homeowners with good credit. So if you have bad credit, people who are getting loans that have good credit are going to pay your fees. Mark, are you ready to lower your credit score for the common good?
Oh, yeah, after I get my reparations.
This sounds like the easiest and most fun thing ever to do at the behest of the federal government. I'll just go spend wildly and not ever pay it back. This is fantastic.
For the average customer with good credit, it's going to cost them at least $40 a month. The missus, why are numbers so hateful?
Because they were devised by white people.
Divided by zero. And Coulter, as skinny as a snake, and
twice as mean,
suggested a compromise that abortion should be banned for registered Republicans only. Mark, do you think Anne's shower drain clogged from all that really long hair?
I'm sorry. Who's long hair?
And Coulter.
Did Mark just call Ann Coulter Chewbacca?
bet she does have big Chewbacca-like feet.
Well, how about this compromise?
Or do you know that her toes are hurt?
No
like the
oxygen.
Hobbit?
No oxygen for the Democrats.
All right, the missus.
Yes.
Well, no, you have to answer. Do you think that Anne's shower drain clogs from all over her long hair?
I thought that was Mark's question.
That was Mark's question. Yes.
So I have to answer Mark's question too?
No, he just had.
No, that just
he
seems
didn't answer
weird.
the question.
I'm so confused.
Fine. Yes. Every time she shaves her armpits, it clogs her drain.
Well, no, she braids her armpit hair. That's how you can.
Well, then
tell.
how would it get down in the drain?
The missus. Do you think that Anne has superpowers? And if so, what are they?
The ability to grow her fingernails very long at any given instant.
That's good. Do they retract too?
No. She has to clip them. Yeah.
Tim notes that California utilities are going to start charging users based on their income.
I heard about that, yeah. This should end well.
And Jim notes for Anne's age, she's pretty doggone hot. All right. Lastly, Seymour Hersh says Zelensky is taking money to Pudinsky his pockets, buying cheap diesel from Russia, and his officials have already pocketed over $400 million doing this scheme. Mark, do you think they're spending it all on vodka?
No, Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Well, someone's got to buy it. They brewed it.
They brewed it. The missus? I didn't have a question written for you, so you'll just have to make one up.
Sad. Well, I guess my answer is that whatever it was, what's his name again? The guy who's claiming this?
Seymour Hersh. Seymour Butts.
Hersh. Seymour Butts. Yeah.
Yes.
That Mr.
Seymour Butts, didn't he write Under the Grandstand?
No, you're thinking about the guy who wrote Standing by the Yellow River. That was IP Freely. But anyway, yeah. Thank you. How did we get into grade school dirty jokes?
Yes.
Anybody got a good one about boogers while we're at it?
Let's ask this. If you stacked $400 million in $100 bills, do you think we could use Zelensky as a midget to throw them at? Say we could do dwarf tossing using Zelensky.
I think that's how we should resolve this war. Putin, Zelensky, and two hammers.
Yes, and the Arctic...
Winner gets the Donbass!
And they could be judged by the famous Arctic explorer, I.C. Wiener.
That's right. Sunday!
Well, we've kind of gone off the rails, folks. But you know what? That's our job. And 43 minutes into it, I think. On that note...
Oh, I thought you wanted me to play this to end that segment.
Oh.
Think real fast.
Because you complained last week that there was no closer for that segment.
Okay. Thank you. I do. That's absolutely perfect.
Okay.
Well, on that note...
You have to keep talking.
Yes,
come on, keep talking.
I am. I'd like to
should I stop interrupting you at any point?
And we'll
I can stop if you want me to.
Oh, fine.
No, go ahead, talk.
I'm John.
Why aren't you talking? Come on, talk.
This is Mark. If you've got boogers, roll them if you have them.
And I'm the missus, doing my best annoying younger sister impression tonight. Y'all come back now, you hear?